Hey you guys, it's Britt. Today we're here to react to your unpopular opinions. You guys had some really good ones, so if you're interested, please keep watching. All right, you guys, so as per usual, I posted on my community tab about a week ago saying that I was going to react to these and give you guys my opinions on your unpopular opinions. And I love gathering these. I always think that it adds to, my content in a little bit of a different way where I can, think about what you guys are thinking about. So thank you if you did leave a comment over there. I will do these, sporadically. I don't really have a schedule or anything, but there will be more to come. So if you missed out on this one, you can participate in the next one. I think the next video that I'm going to do and ask you guys for help is going to be just a Q&A, because I want to try to do every other video like this, do some type of Q&A and then maybe do an unpopular opinions and then maybe do an assumptions, just to keep things a little more interesting. So hopefully that works for you guys. So before I babble, let's get into these opinions. The first one is unpopular opinion. Being a kid is absolutely awful, and I don't want to ever be a kid again. People are very disrespectful to you as a kid, talk down to you, boss you around, misunderstand you, and you get punishment a lot for stupid things. There's a huge lack of freedom. You have to sometimes walk on eggshells to avoid conflict, and it's the time where you get bullied the most. It's honestly one of the worst times in a human being's life. Yes, being an adult may not be fun because of bills, but trust me, it's a lot better than having to deal with hating your parents or hating life around you. The only good thing that comes from being a kid is that the majority of the family was alive and around at that time. Aside from that, I can do without it. I definitely can pull things from this that I agree with. And I think as far as being a kid and childhood and, the way that you were raised, it is so particular to how you grew up. Were you raised by your parents? Were you raised by, maybe a foster family? Did you not have any family and your childhood was spent in a group home or something like that? It can range so much for every single child. But I will say my actual childhood, I do miss that because of my grandmother and just a lot of the memories and people that I had back then. But as far as once I hit late middle school into high school, those are years that I could just throw away. And it's kind of crazy because after I was out of high school and, many years past that period of my life, I sometimes would have nightmares about being back in school, or it would be a nightmare of me being in the first day of school again, where I would wake up and think, oh, I have to start school today, but I was actually going to my job. And so you guys know high school wasn't fun for me. It kind of started in middle school, but it got really in my face in high school because kids were not as shy to just be asked. So I definitely understand a lot of points here, and I think that a lot of other people would agree too. It just depends on what your childhood was like. Were you bullied? Were you not bullied? Do you have good memories, bad memories? So it definitely will differ in a major way for a lot of people. But I wouldn't say that that's an unpopular opinion. I think that everyone could probably take at least one of those things and say, yeah, that was in my childhood and I hated it, or whatever. So that was a really good one. So the next one is people who care more for the well-being of animals over people are not assholes. Chances are there's probably a good reason for the misanthropy. And I can agree with this. You hear so often, oh, well, nobody should care about an animal more than they do about a person. But you don't know the history of that person and why they have that frame of mind. And, you guys know I care so much about animals, and the way I kind of look at things is there are groups of people who cannot take care of or defend themselves, like children, and a lot of times very like much older elderly people. They have a hard time defending themselves, taking care of themselves. If I was going to say, am I going to care more about the well-being of a dog that's being mistreated, or an able-bodied adult who, has no health complications, they're able to, say and do what they want, I will always gravitate towards the animal, because in that situation, they're not able to help themselves, where the adult is able-bodied and able to speak up for themselves, whereas the animal can't. So I totally understand that. In fact, I don't even think that's really an unpopular opinion. I think a lot of people will agree with it. Next one is reading the last chapter of the book first is the best way to read a novel. When I encourage people to try it, they look at me like I have 3 heads. Now, one of my downfalls is I'm not a big book reader. I like to listen to books on like Audible, but as far as just sitting down with a book and reading it from cover to cover, that's never been my thing. I've never been a big reader. But I will say, back when I was in school and we had to read for assignments or summer break or whatever, I was one of those people that would absolutely read the last chapter of the book first and then go back to the beginning and read the rest of it. So totally get you. And again, probably not a super unpopular opinion, but I know that people that really respect and adore literature, I'm sure will have a problem with that, but I've been guilty of it for sure. Okay, next is relationships are overrated. I've been single for a long time and people feel bad for me or think that it's weird. I'm more content than anyone I know in a relationship. I think a lot of people are in relationships because they think they have to be or they can't be alone. I like dating and can even handle having a boyfriend, but I can't do the 24/7 cohabitating thing. As far as the cohabitating thing, that's definitely something that takes some time to get used to. And if you move in together too soon and you don't really know the other person and they turn out to just be like the worst person ever to live with, that can definitely lead to more fights, more hostility, anger, and just frustration on both sides. So I understand the cohabitating thing. I feel like I got pretty lucky with my boyfriend. Like we're both kind of, we both have the same viewpoint as far as keeping stuff clean, keeping it organized. So we don't really have any issues there, which I'm very grateful for. But as far as the idea of just a societal standard that you should be married or in a relationship, I think that that's kind of old at this point. I know that some people still look at it that way, but I've always said there is power in learning how to be alone and actually enjoying being alone, not just I'm alone counting down the hours to, when I can be with someone again. But when you actually learn how to appreciate being alone, you can appreciate it even if you're in a relationship. And you really get to know yourself in a really intimate way, and you can just be alone with your own thoughts for a little while. So I'm always a big advocate of learning to be alone, but in a positive way, not in a I don't know what to do with myself kind of way. And as far as like, oh, you should be in a relationship, you should be married, like whatever. I know for a fact in my real life, I have people that are single. They have been single for a very long time, and they are, like you said, more than content with their lifestyle, their quality of life, and they're definitely not hurting in the I'm alone kind of outlook on life. So next is dating friends is the worst thing that you could do. It's hard enough to make friends as you get older. So to date your friend and have it mess up is going to make you most likely lose that person. This is a really great point. I've actually never aside from like some casual stuff, I've never jumped into a really serious relationship with any of my friends, because I always did think about it like that, where if we break up, then you're no longer going to be my friend. I would rather still have you as my friend and not risk losing you. But I have heard of a lot of situations like this where people are friends for a year or 3 years or longer, then they start dating and or get married, they break up, and then not only is their relationship done, but the friendship is done too. And so I guess it's up to those people if it's a risk that they're willing to take, but I totally understand that opinion. Next is, I don't want kids when I'm older. I work with kids and that's enough. It's okay to not want kids. I couldn't agree more. I don't know why there is this pressure, and I do feel like it's getting better in this day and age, but there's always been this like, it's like a societal norm, kind of like the relationship thing, where you go to school, you go to college, you get a job, and then you get married and you have kids. And that is the checklist of what a good life is, even though none of those things equate to having a good quality of life. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If that's your decision, then I do think that we're kind of seeing the tables turn a little bit now, where millennials and people in my age range and a little bit younger are living their lives a little bit differently, where they're not having kids, they're not getting married, they're using that money to buy a house or adopt a bunch of animals or travel the world. It's not this, oh, well, we have to have kids because we're in our mid-20s and we don't have kids yet. It's nonsense to me. Next is blue cheese, yum. Pineapple on pizza, yes. I used to like blue cheese a little bit, dressing with my buffalo wings. I don't like it anymore. I just use ranch. Pineapple on pizza, I can't do it. I just can't. I've tried, and I know a lot of people really like it. So if you do, great. But I just can't do it. I've tried a few times and I'm done. Next is unpopular opinion. I don't get the hype over Squid Games. I barely made it through 2 episodes. I can't really say that I agree or disagree because I have not seen it at all. I saw maybe a 15-second clip on an Instagram video once. It didn't look interesting to me at all. So I never looked into it. So I can't say that I would hate it or love it, but the clip that I saw also didn't pique my interest and make me run and watch it. So I'm sure that you're right in that being an opinion. The next one is, my unpopular opinion is that applesauce is delicious on pizza, but nobody is ready to have that talk yet. Another, first of all, to address that one, I don't even know what that would taste like. I've never had apple on pizza, so I can't really understand the applesauce thing. But if you like it, then that's all that we need to know. The next one is from the same commenter, and she said, another unpopular opinion is that I think being born is more painful than dying. I know that some people who have died and come back from death say they were in no pain and they enjoyed their death, that they didn't want to come back because they had a family to take care of. I've actually done a lot of my own research as far as the death and dying process, and that might seem very morbid and creepy to a lot of people, but I think that we all have a little bit of curiosity as far as some of those types of things, not in a gruesome way, but just to know more about what that process entails. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with it. So I've done my own research, and I've heard the same thing where if you're dying a natural death, even if it's from a disease, say you have cancer, the pain from the cancer is going to be hopefully managed through pain management with your medical team. But the actual process of dying is not painful, unless obviously we're talking about an accident or something. But I'm talking about dying a natural death from, like a disease or something like that. The idea is to have pain management handle the pain that the disease is causing. And when it's your time to go, there's no pain associated with actually passing. So I hope that makes sense, but I totally understand where you're coming from. The next one is, not all women like to shop. I am one, probably because of rude people. I can see that for sure. I have to be in a mood to shop. I can't just wake up any day of the week and be like, I want to go shopping. I kind of have to be in a frame of mind, and especially since the whole panini started, that's changed my viewpoint on being in crowded stores with no open air. I've told you guys in some of my vlogs lately that I've preferred going to outdoor shopping areas instead of malls, just because there's open air, it's more spread out. And that's just an adjustment that I've made, and I actually feel better going out when it's an open air market and we're not in a crammed Macy's up in the mall that's been there since 1972. But yeah, rude people for sure. I mean, it feels like, especially now, it's impossible to avoid rude people. It just feels like everyone's in a bad mood, everyone's having a bad day, and when I encounter that, I just try to steer clear. I'm here to do my thing, you do yours, and let's keep it moving. We're all having a tough time, some much worse than others. But at the end of the day, it's one thing to have a bad day, but don't just be an outright jerk to someone, especially if they haven't done anything to, even get your attention. That's kind of where I stand on it. Next is, I think people are redeemable no matter what they have done. Ooh, I would, that is truly an unpopular opinion, I believe. I would disagree with that, because I look at people who, with CSA, I will put it right here for you guys because I can't say it on YouTube. Things like that. People who harm animals in a, malicious way. There are some things that I just don't think are redeemable, and that's my personal opinion. Obviously, we all have one. But as far as some things, there are certain things that you can do in this life, and I would like you to go crawl into a black hole until you shrivel up and die, and that's just my personal opinion. Next is unpopular opinion. Drama should stay on drama channels. I agree with this. I mean, I think that channels as a whole, a lot of them are going to get involved in some form of drama at some point during their time online. That's just kind of the way it is. It's obviously also up to that person to see how they react to it and how they respond to getting in some kind of pickle. I like to call it a pickle. Not everybody is going to react in a manner that's going to allow the audience to listen and hear their message. Sometimes it's just for clicks and views. Sometimes it's just for pity. Sometimes it's for attention. I find it really interesting. I've said before, if I responded to every negative opinion about me that's been made out there, I would have 30 videos on my channel right now responding to what people thought about me. But I don't have the time, the patience, or the energy to entertain clowns online. Once in a while, I will address it, but as a whole, I try to just leave it over there. Next, Beyonce is overrated. I totally agree with this. Cancel me now. I really don't care. Next is, drip coffee is delicious. No, that's an unpopular opinion. Disgusting. The next one is, the smartphone has destroyed the planet. I blame Steve Jobs. As far as the smartphone, I think that it's made obviously massive waves in the way that we communicate with each other and interact with one another, which in one breath I can say that I'm thankful for, but in the other breath I can also recognize that it is a problem, because now we have social media issues where reality is skewed, and then you have people creating false identities and trying to scam people. So I like the idea of where the smartphone has brought us, but I also understand that just like anything else in life, there are positives and negatives in any given situation, but I don't really know if I would go as far as to say it has destroyed the planet. Just my opinion. Next is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is creepy and disturbing. There's definitely some parts of that movie that are very creepy, for sure. I don't like the new Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I like the original one. I've seen it many times, and there are definitely parts that I, as an adult, when I watch it, I sit back and definitely give a big side eye to some parts of that movie, for sure. Next one is, I believe dunking chocolate cookies in orange juice is way better than milk. That is disgusting, and you should go to jail right away. And next is, time does not heal all. Nope, sometimes things hurt the same forever. Couldn't agree more. I've heard this from so many people, oh, it'll get better with time. Time heals. Time will heal the wounds. I disagree. Even if you're managing your emotions and, journaling or seeing a therapist or, doing whatever it is that helps you get through hard days, it also depends what the situation is. Some things will hurt forever, and time is not going to just help it get any better. That's just my opinion. People should be required to take parenting classes and pass tests in order to have a child. Wow, that's a really, that could be a whole video by itself. I definitely think that parenting classes are a good idea no matter what. I don't really think that anyone could ever pass a law to say you have to pass a test before you can have a child. I just don't think that that's feasible. But as far as being educated, I do look at some parents and I'm like, how is it that your 2-year-old got out of your house and was roaming 5 blocks away with bare feet at 2:00 in the morning? Things like that really scare me. And when I think of scenarios like that, that's where I'm like, okay, there has to be a better way, because we can't just have idiots out here, letting their kids roam around at 2:00 in the morning with no shoes on. The next one is, I don't care much for Taylor Swift. I fully agree with that. I've never cared for her. She and Beyonce, I do like Beyonce more than Taylor Swift, but overrated for sure. Social media has ruined our world. I don't really know if it's ruined it. I definitely think that it has added a layer of complications onto what's already a complicated world that we live in. And it's also, it makes people really, you have to have a strong mind in order to spend time on social media and not let it get to you. There's just things all over social media that are scams, fake, lies, manipulation, driven by money. And it's hard to differentiate between what is, what's manipulation and what's just someone wanting to make content and put it online. You know what I mean? Next is, buying fancy clothes for babies is a waste of money. I could not agree more. I talked about this a very long time ago in a video, how, you see parents buying like $200 sneakers for an infant that they're going to wear one time in a Christmas photo shoot. Like, that kind of stuff is just insane to me. Next, cold Chinese food is delicious. I have to disagree. I don't like any food cold that is originally served warm, if that makes sense. Next, runny cheese is disgusting. Cheese should not be in the form of liquid. Queso is gross. I do like queso once in a while, but as far as like Cheese Whiz and all of that other stuff, I can pass. Someone else said pineapple on pizza. I addressed that earlier. Next, runny eggs are disgusting. I couldn't agree more. I cannot stand runny eggs. I don't know why people like them. I couldn't agree more. Next, Friends was not a good show. I've talked about this so many times. Friends is stupid, and maybe people will hate me for saying that. I never felt like it was genuinely funny. I never felt like it was genuinely a, really well-produced show. Friends and Seinfeld were on TV around the same time, and I grew up in a household where we watched Seinfeld, and I have an appreciation for a really good sitcom, and for me, Friends was never it, but that's just me. Next is Starbucks sucks. Starbucks is mediocre. It's in the middle of the road for me. Some of their drinks can be good, some aren't good, but it's very interesting that this comment came through because I've heard for so long from like coffee connoisseurs that Starbucks is just trash. I actually like the coffee bean much better, and obviously they're on the West Coast. I'm on the East Coast, which kind of sucks, but yeah, I would say Starbucks is in the middle of the road on their best day. And the last one on YouTube is I hate coffee and don't care for animated movies. I agree with that. Kind of the coffee thing, you guys know how I feel. I like a latte. I don't like drip coffee, and that's where I stand. Now, I got a couple of DMs, and before I read these, there's only a couple, but I want you guys to realize that I'm collecting unpopular opinions. This dude, Dad Challenge Podcast, has people so scared to leave their opinions on a community post that people DM'd me their unpopular opinions about Josh. This is very, it's very narcissistic. It is very manipulative to have people literally nervous to leave an unpopular opinion about you. Do I expect anything else? No, but I wanted to say that the only ones that I got for in DMs were regarding Josh and his problematic platform. So someone says, unpopular opinion here, Josh has no clue how to apologize. OMG. I couldn't agree more. He apologizes when his feet are held to the fire, and only when it's absolutely required. It's not ever because it's the right thing to do. And I said in my other video, Josh is someone who, as I've been able to kind of take a step back and look from an outsider's point of view at him and his content, he is someone who, to me, is the biggest crybaby, the biggest egomaniac who just sees one little piece of disagreement with him or his content and he will just, fly off the handle and go have a meltdown. It's just cringeworthy, and I think a lot more people are seeing through him at this point. Label us all as detractors. I don't really give a shit anymore. But the fact of the matter is that his content has become worse over time, and people are seeing it for what it is, point blank, period. So the last one that I have here is that the Dad Challenge podcast only covered the Gabby Petito story because he knew that it would get him a lot of new subscribers and a lot of income. I agree with that. And here's the thing with this whole real crime situation. There's never been a problem with people covering real crime or true crime or whatever it is that you want to call it. And by the way, he didn't coin real crime. I don't know where that idea came from, but there's been real crime. There's a YouTube channel called Real Crime for years. There's already a YouTube channel called Real Crime, and people have been using that tagline for many years. So that was just a side note. But as far as him covering it, you know, those are the feelings that I had initially, and I felt like it was just not, it wasn't a productive conversation. It was hours long live streams, throwing shit at the wall to see what would stick, throwing out these insane conspiracy theories. They weren't even theories based on the facts. It was just like insane nonsense left and right, and that was the problem that I had. Now, as far as a YouTuber doing this kind of content and then moving over to this kind of content, that's not the problem. The problem is, how is the content going to be produced? Is it going to be just a bunch of bullshit theories posted for 3 hours and, you know, crowdsourcing? I understand the idea of crowdsourcing, but when you're crowdsourcing just the most nonsensical bullshit and then talking about it for 15 minutes so that you can debunk it, who are you? It is so clear what that entire situation was. And then once I raised concerns about it, you know, I kept it offline. I kept it off my platform, like a lot of people. Oh, keep it off your platform. Just talk in DMs. I did. And in my personal opinion, allegedly, I was lied to about what his intent was with that revenue. And that's where I will leave it. But there's a whole cluster of issues. But yes, I don't think that that's an unpopular opinion. In fact, I think that a lot of people agree with the intent of the whole coverage that he did. A lot of people saw through it. So either way, those are my reactions for now. So if you like the video, please leave a like and a comment. And if you'd like to see more from me in the future, please subscribe. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.